and I, you know, as far as like what I do, I use different processes. In the Reiki, that when I'm using my hand and I'm moving, basically I'm pulling energy out of, or actually how I visualize it is with the movement of my hands, it just helps me mentally see where my hands are going. So when I'm pulling something off of someone, it's like an etheric hand that goes into the area and then pulls and extracts. And as I said before, when I pull and I extract, I delete the problem. Again, so I don't have a situation where, you know, pulling something out and it's just wandering around looking for another host. There's a lot of that here. So, anyway, if anyone has any questions at this point, feel free to ask.
Question?
Oh, okay. So, do you need a mic or anything like that?
Very interesting. Thank you for helping my friend Bria here. That was
good.
Hello, hello. How do you measure, or how does Bria measure the real effect? Is it a mental, she feels better? Are there biological tests of blood pressure? How do you prove what you've done really works?
Yeah, that's interesting. I get that a lot of the time. Primarily it has to do with how she feels afterwards. There will be a little bit of a side effect from the work, because one of the things that happens when I start working on you, I'm cracking a shell. So it's like you have this, something that's, it's not like an eggshell, it's like something that's very dense, you know. And so when I crack the shell, all this stuff starts to come up to the surface. And a lot of times, the next day someone will call me and say that they feel like they have the flu. And I always tell them, don't worry about it, it'll be gone in about 2 hours. And that's just the energy that's been dormant all that time coming to the surface. Or it's been in hiding, coming to the surface. It's being pulled out. Things are being upset. So I think that there's some test or something that I guess someone wants to do. Was it this weekend or something like that?
Actually, let me add that, because tomorrow afternoon I brought health technology people together that I've been working with, and I've worked with various different ones here. I had gone through a session with one of those, a product called BioSpec that looks at the problems area, and I cannot tell you how, it's the sound technology. And I saw problems in my kidney and pancreas. And I went, all right, thanks, I'll keep that in the back of my head. I met with Harry, and he didn't tell him where, and he said he saw the same areas, the same problem areas. So it is, you know, for me the challenge was the same. How do you know? So how do you go back? It's your body that will tell you. What I've learned even from the technology is that you will also have things we call the healing crisis, where you get a short hit and like, oh, I feel good, and then it like crushes back. So it's kind of the same like when you pop a boil in your hand and you don't get it all out, but you just leave room for more to come in. So that's why one session isn't always enough. Something will come back stronger. It's not a quick hit, because it didn't get there in one quick hit. But you can use and you can see it through thermal imaging, which is what we'll be showing tomorrow and demonstrating that. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thanks for that, Phyllis.
So I think his discernment was pretty good. He talked about my kidneys, they had an issue. And actually I tried to give my kidney to my sister. And I do have one kidney that's not healthy enough, so I couldn't take one of mine out because it wasn't strong enough. So we did foresee something that was real. And then I do have extensive injuries in my back. And so when you talked about there being multiple points in my back, I have a 2 pinch nerve and 3 fused vertebrae.
Okay.
How do you feel now?
I feel like I got a bruise in my heart, on my chest, right here.
You say you feel it now?
I like have a bruise. Like,
yeah, well, that's when something's been sitting there for as long as it's been sitting there, and you pull it. It's like something that has roots, and it's just intermingles itself with your energy. And like I said, you had 4 things there, and a couple of them from places, and you know, just so that it doesn't get really weird, I'm not even going to tell you where some of the stuff said it came from, but when I'm pulling something that's been there a long time, it's attached. It's like, something that, it's like a parasite that attaches itself, like a leech or something like that. So they attach, they get stuck there. So when you pull it, it's like pulling a scab off or something. So you're going to feel that, but what you're going to feel after that is a rise of energy. You're going to feel more clarity in that space. Okay? So one of the things that what Phyllis was saying is that if you're looking for a super quick fix, this isn't really the place to come. There are times I've had people come in, they had some kind of chronic pain or something like that, and was able to fix it in one setting, but that's not always the case. When we deal with something that's interfering with your flow of consciousness, your flow of chi, it's usually, a number of things. And so sometimes you remove one thing, something else that's in the background comes up and tries to take its place, but it's not infinite. It's a finite thing. Eventually, they'll peter out, and then you'll have this total clarity. But one of the things that happens is that the weaker one comes up, so it's not like you're going to feel the same intensity that you might have felt before I did the work. And a lot of times, people are walking around with injuries and they don't even know it, because they're used to it. It's like eating the wrong food for your body, and you have a reaction, to it, but you think the reaction is just natural. That's just the way it is, man. But what's going on is that your body's trying to tell you that you're putting the wrong energy into it. And not everybody needs the same kind of energy. There's no the three food groups or whatever, for everybody on the planet. That's not the case. It doesn't work like that. The body is extremely smart. The consciousness is extremely smart. What the problem is the aspect of the body that I call the program. That's the one that's fed all this stuff that tells you to do things that aren't really beneficial to yourself. So as far as with like I said, with your heart chakra, you're going to feel a little funny about it. You're going to feel a little pain or something, a little discomfort. But I guarantee you that it's being replaced with a more pure energy, and that energy is connected to your body. And your body's energy is connected to higher supreme consciousness, is what I call it. So what's happening when I'm working, I'm trying to give you a direct line to supreme consciousness, which is where everything comes from anyway, in my opinion.
I guess I have two questions. Do you have these attachments attached to you? And are you able to remove them? And what are I think you mentioned these attachments to say things to you. When you pull them out, what are some examples of things that they have said to you?
Well, with me, when I'm my first client, so yeah, I had multiple attachments through my life. But when I learned what they were, I was able to start pulling them out. One of the things that happens when you start to get a little too close to whatever the game is that's on this planet, you end up with a lot of weird stuff happening. I ended up with involuntary out of bodies, or things where people call shadow people and all that kind of stuff, coming into my space, and in the beginning it scared the heck out of me. I didn't know what was going on, but I would always try to gather myself and not panic and calm myself so I could deal with the situation. So when it came to involuntary out of bodies, it was what they coined, I guess, in the last 15 years or whatever, sleep paralysis. They call it sleep paralysis, but it's another form of out of body. For me, I basically would do a trick where I just focus on one digit of my finger and move it, and then was able to break whatever was going on. But the thing is, when you start to do this journey, certain things will happen that the things that are around you don't want it to happen. They don't want their food supply to realize that their food supply. And so you get attacked. So that's what happened to me when I started to delete the attachments that were connected to my body. I don't have them anymore, but I have friends on the other side. But I don't have anyone who's sucking my energy off of me like they did decades ago. So you wanted an example of my lovely assistant, Alethea, also one of my clients, and she can tell you. Do you want to tell your experience? Okay. You were asking about some of the things that they do when you start to when it starts to detect them and start to get rid of them.
Ever since I was really little, I went to a very kind of oppressive church. It was almost like military church. And I always had these problems meeting men who were very violent, very angry, and a lot of them sexually aggressive. And since I was 8 years old, and I would just meet different people. And when I came to Mr. Harry, I didn't tell him those things, but he was able to find them. I remember I had serious pain in my hip. Like if he pushed his finger, it felt like someone electrocuting you with 220 volts out of that thing. And I had no idea what it was, but I remember whenever you are continuously assaulted, you kind of desire someone to be kind to you. So you're kind of have this spot where you're kind of open to where you're just looking for anyone to just show you some kindness, especially if it's like from the male sex, since that's normally you get violence or you get beat up or you have to fight your way out of the situation. And he told me he's like, there's this guy and he has kind of long hair. And I was like, oh, I know who he's talking about. And then I told him about a man I met here in Thailand, and I kind of opened up to him because he was kind of church-like and he was kind of handsome and he was kind of nice, but literally he was causing me pain because I had opened up my heart chakra and he had found a place where he felt comfortable. And when he pulled that out, the pain was gone immediately, and it was just an amazing experience. And I know everyone has a different story, so if you come and get a session, it's awesome.
Actually, one of the things that Alethea didn't tell you was when I get hold of certain things, depending on how sensitive, because Alethea is also sensitive as well, and I have a lot of sensitives come to me, and they're kind of like closet sensitives, you know? And when I start to glean what's going on and figure out what's going on, then they start to open up, and let me know that, yeah, I have had these experiences, throughout my life with ghosts and things bumping in the night and, taking things and, and all this type of deal.
How did you begin to work on yourself to find those energy points and pull them out yourself?
Well, it was trial and error, but also over the years, because I was having certain types of experiences, I would go to all these different bookstores, like the Bodhi Tree in California, Los Angeles, and I can remember one that's in New York City, and I would just find any book that I could that seemed to pertain to what was happening with me. And also, just out of necessity, decided that I realized that most everything that I was learning in this world was a lie. Anything that had to do with the other side was basically watered down into something that wouldn't give you the real information that you needed to help yourself. So that's how I started. I just decided just to walk into the storm. It was either that or, as I had told someone before, I said, if I quit, you might as well dig a hole for me and throw the dirt over me, man. But I'm here for a reason. And I knew I was here for a reason. I knew I was here for a reason when I was 5 years old. But I didn't know what it was, but I knew that when I looked around me and looked at the world and all the stuff that was going on, I'm like, man, there's something wrong with this place. So you may have an inkling in yourself, in other words, I think everyone here is here searching for some aspect of a connection to their higher selves, their true connection to their higher selves. So if you're on that journey, you're going to actually find things. You're going to find people who actually spark some aspect of that, and you're going to at some point you're going to just you're going to get enlightened on certain levels. One of the things about enlightenment, you can't ever be unenlightened once enlightened.